The representative from North Carolina, Mr. Harris, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank all of you on the panel. I've had the pleasure of reading your testimonies as well as hearing you this morning, and very appreciative of you being here and your time. Parents in my district have told me time and again that school choice is a priority of theirs, and they really long for anything that we can do at the federal level to make that easier. And Mr. Blanks, today, I appreciated your testimony. It was inspiring. And yet we've heard lots of claims from the other side of the aisle made in opposition to school choice. Some are going to argue that school choice resegregates schools. We've heard that school choice deprives children with disabilities of their rights. We've heard that support for school choice is really a smokescreen for trying to destroy public education. Is it just me, or is the conversation that one side of this debate is having is totally disconnected from the conversations that real families are having around their kitchen tables about how best to educate their kids?
Yes. I firmly believe that when we're having these discussions about education, that the other side will typically leave out the personal experience, stories like my own, or why parents want to send their child to a different school in the first place. And so I am here to talk about my own experience, and as I've done this work, I've heard a lot about how vouchers or schemes or scams or whatever the case may be, but it was my life-saving device for me and for my family. And we didn't have support. We didn't have any other options. I was stuck in this school, and I would beg my mom every day not to send me to that school. And so I do find some of those comments offensive, but I'm proud to stand behind the very policies that changed my life and put me on the path that I'm on now today.
Thank you, sir. And God bless your mom for having the courage and the strength and determination to respond the way she did when she was asked to give a 5-year reprieve to get things right. Mrs. Clark, your story represents one of those parents who wants options. And another objection we might hear to school choice is that there's no accountability if the school fails to serve children with special needs. But I noticed you went through the IDEA process, and it sounds as if the public school system failed your child. What would you say to critics who believe that the traditional public schools are the only safe place for children with special needs and learning disabilities?
Thank you for the question. Well, I would say that's absolutely false. And we can look at the demand of parents of students with disabilities for school choice programs. You know, there's a sad running joke amongst parents of students with disabilities, and it essentially goes like, if you haven't cried in an IEP meeting with the public school, you don't really have a student with a disability. We all know, as parents of students with disabilities, how incredibly difficult the process is to actually get the services that our children need in the public school system. So this idea that IDEA is somehow benefiting all students in the public school system is absolutely false. And contrary to what you've heard, we don't lose all of our rights when we choose a school choice scholarship program. IDEA Part B, proportionate share funding, that's been around since the beginning of IDEA, says that a proportion of all of the funds that come to the state should be used for students with disabilities that are in private schools and homeschools. I know one of my children on an ESA received IDEA funding from their local public school just last year. So there's a lot of misinformation out there around IDEA.
Well, you also mentioned in your testimony that even at the state level, in order to qualify for Arizona's Empowerment Scholarship Account program, you had to jump through a variety of hoops for several months. Could you take just a moment and elaborate on some of the reasons why it took so long?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So prior to Arizona's ESA program being universal, where every student qualified in 2022, families like myself had to go through the public school system process to have our students evaluated. That was an extra expense on the public school system, but the public school system is the one that had to qualify our students as a student with a disability. So there was, an extra process, an extra burden there. Also in Arizona, you used to have to attend public school, either in person or online, for 100 days. That was very difficult for families with students of disabilities or families that were moving into the state.
All right. Well, eliminating bureaucracy is one of the most important reforms, I believe, that we can make at the federal level. We can never forget that parental rights will always take precedence over government, and that taxpayer dollars have got to be accountable to the taxpayer themselves. So I will ask you this, Ms. Clark. Do you think that eliminating or reducing the role of the Department of Education would give more power to the states and people to influence education?
Yes, I absolutely do. Ending the Department of Education or greatly disempowering it is something that I hope to see very soon.
Well, it's clear under our Constitution that the federal government was never supposed to have such an outsized role in education. With the number of students failing core subjects growing in our nation, it's clear that the status quo is not working, as we've heard today. What I'm hearing is that parents and states are more than ready to step up and make sure children get the best education. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.